Will Brownsberger, State Senator, Town Meeting Member at Large. So I began my service to this community as a young parent concerned about the quality of education and also concerned about traffic safety. As a legislator, I have, like all of you, remained centrally concerned to assure that the town of Belmont has the resources it needs to provide high-quality education and safe roads, as well as public safety and a good quality of life. So legislatively, this is a relatively good year from that perspective. Local aid is up by almost $1 million for the town of Belmont, 5 or 6%. The final figure is not quite set, but it will be at least 5%. And we are launching a review of our education aid methodology so that we can continue to grow education aid to meet evolving needs. Finally, I've been able to place $400,000 in earmarks for the town, $300,000 for the community path, and $100,000 for school textbooks. And Dave Rogers has also, I know, briefed you on the earmarks that he expects in the House budget. I've posted materials about these bread and butter issues at willbrownsberger.com, and including a full history of bread and butter legislative results for Belmont Town Meeting materials down there, the latest results. So what I want to do tonight, though, is to talk about 3 specific issues: the form of town meeting, the community path, and transparency. During COVID, the legislature liberalized the use of virtual connectivity for all kinds of transactions and meetings, including many private transactions and meetings, as well as town meetings, other local government meetings, and legislative hearings and sessions. After COVID, several town meeting members came to me and expressed their need for continued opportunity to participate virtually. I worked to extend the COVID-era authorization, and I altered the original authorization to remove the necessity of a health risk finding. So town meeting now has full flexibility to meet either virtually, in person, or hybrid. This authorization expires on June 30th, 2027, after the next season of town meeting. So there are 2 major competing approaches to making hybrid participation permanent. One approach would require guaranteed hybrid access, in which all local meetings, from town meeting to the smallest town committee meeting, would always be hybrid. The second approach is a flexible approach, which just says we'll trust town officials to choose the format that makes the most sense for a given meeting, whether that be in-person, hybrid, or fully virtual. The latter approach, the approach allowing local flexibility, is the approach embraced by the Home Rule petition in Article 15 before this town meeting, and it's an approach I fully support. There are strong adherents in the legislature to both approaches, the mandatory hybrid approach and the flexible approach, and that division is what has kept us from so far achieving a permanent solution. I do see many possible avenues for compromise, for example, requiring large meetings, like town meeting perhaps, to be in hybrid format, and then allowing flexibility on smaller meetings. I will continue to push for some kind of permanent solution. Next, I am deeply committed to completing the Belmont Community Path. It's been going on for a long time. We've got lots of work ahead of us. It has enormous benefits for the people of Belmont. It will create new, safer connections for both Waverly and Winbrook to our wonderful Concord Avenue campus, the high school, the middle school, the library, the rink, the playing fields, and it will create safer commuting connections for much of Belmont through to Alewife. And once we complete phases 2 and 3 and link up the path to the path that the city of Waltham has created, we will have a spectacular recreational asset. Much of the Massachusetts Central Rail Trail is already in place all the way out to Hudson, and we only need to complete our connection. So the Belmont Community Path is ultimately a state project. Although the town has responsibility for designing it and securing the right-of-way, the state is going to spend almost $50 million on this project. For the town, the hardest part has been agreeing on the route of the path. I'm grateful to town meeting, to the select board, to the various community path committees, and to town staff for settling the path location controversy. From a project implementation standpoint, the tunnel from Winbrook over to the high school has created the most engineering challenges and controversy. Again and again, we've had to escalate disputes for resolution at high levels within MassDOT and MBTA. Most recently, it emerged that the final version of the tunnel construction approach will require an 8-day shutdown of the Fitchburg line. Mid-level of officials of the MBTA said no to this, and mid-level officials at MassDOT were prepared to defer the project to resolve the dispute, look for another approach. But the town's engineers had really done their work well, and they convinced MassDOT's senior engineer that the longer shutdown was the best approach. So we escalated the issue, and ultimately, MassDOT Secretary Phil Lang, same guy who was general manager of the T, stepped in to permit the shutdown. So at this stage, I see no state-level barriers to this project going out to bid in July, and I'll remain alert for any. And the town has just done a spectacular job on this. I mean, there's just been so much great work done to get us to this point. All right, now I want to turn to the question of transparency. When the question is transparency, the answer for me has to be yes. So transparency is, first of all, a political practice, the practice of speaking forthrightly about the issues that matter, listening to constituents, responding candidly to constituents, and then working hard to deliver promised results. That's what public service is all about. And I'll say Will Brownsberger is, by the way, WillBrownsberger.com is widely recognized as a model for legislative communications. But citizens need to be able to investigate and understand public policy on their own. Public access to public information is a central priority for me. In 2010, I earned myself a windowless office, half barricaded by construction debris, on the 5th floor of the State House by challenging House leadership to make spending data available. Although as a rookie, I used a little too much vinegar and not enough honey, I did get the intended result. We reformed our procurement rules. Additionally, all state spending is now visible online. Legislative spending and executive branch spending up to date down to the last penny. I've continued to push for transparency year after year, creating visibility into the inner workings of state government, the MBTA pension fund, MBTA improvement programs, our environmental investments, our affordable housing investments, and our rules now assure that every kind of vote within the legislature is visible online. So, most legislative records, votes, spending, the twists and turns of legislative drafting, are already visible online. But I do support expansion, as has been proposed, of the public records law to cover the legislature. I also support production of documents for the state audit. There are legal and institutional complexities, in particular, there are privacy issues for constituents, but when the question is transparency, the basic answer has to be yes. So we're heading into the end of our 2-year legislative cycle. The next couple of months will yield important legislative results. Most importantly, our package to protect Massachusetts residents from ICE overreach. So, as your servant in the state Senate, I am always available and eager to respond, and I thank you for hearing my report. Thank you so much.